Hi everyone, this is Counseling 4000, Chapter 23, Documentation and Recording. So, in social media, if you had a party and it was really, really fun, but you didn't take any pictures and post it on Instagram, people usually say, take a picture or it didn't happen. The same thing happens when it comes to case management. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen, right? So once a person is in the case management unit system and is receiving services from a provider, it is the case manager's responsibility to keep a record of all contacts relevant to the case. So if you are the case manager of this specific client, you need to document everything that's going on with this client so that people know if they need to check, and you also need to remember or whatever it is because you're going to be holding a large amount of cases per person at the place where you're working. Contact note forms note where the contact is coming from, the provider agency, is it from the family, the doctor, the teacher, or the counselor, and of course collateral contacts such as teachers, family members, or other related to that person as well. The importance of documentation. If you don't document all contacts, a client can say you didn't do anything when you actually did, and that's an ethical issue right there. You need to show proof that, hey, I was actually doing these things. Documentation is money, fee-for-service agencies where the agencies are reimbursed for the services that staff have provided. So if you don't document, you're not going to necessarily get paid because they're going to say, hey, what did you do? Because we said we were going to pay if you did this, this, and this. Show us proof that you did those three things. And if you did not document it and it has a date and all that other stuff, they're going to go, well, how do I know you did it or you didn't do it? So if you can't provide the documentation or the evidence, I'm not going to pay you. And then that becomes an issue. Most agencies have a digital version for contacts and documentation to make it easier for the case manager. So let's say at an agency, you might have a computer, and on the computer, they might have a documentation thing, an app or a program, and then you just type it all in there and it saves it and goes into that client's file, or maybe you print it out afterwards and then put it into your client's file. Writing contact notes. No more than 6 or 7 sentences, clear and concise, nothing lengthy. Again, a lot of beginners tend to be very nervous and overproductive in the sense of they want to list as much as information as possible, and that's not necessarily important, okay, or necessary. What you need to do is be able to just have an overall concise description of what happened, and then that's it. We don't need to know everything that happened in that conversation. Contact notes should always include, number 1, the focus of the interview or contact, 2, the assessment based on a concise summary of behavior, appearance, and affect, 3, any resolution that takes place, such as like, oh, we decided this is what's going to happen next. 4, the reason for the next contact or follow-up that will occur. We'll check up on this person because of blah, blah, blah. So here is an example. Focus of the interview. Linda came into the office today to discuss her medication. Okay. And then you can say your assessment is she appeared somewhat disheveled and tearful and indicated her belief that the medicine is not strong enough. And that's in quotation marks because those are her words. The resolution is an appointment was set up for her to see Dr. Wentworth on July 2nd. She was advised to remain in her program where her depression can be closely monitored. And then the reason for the next contact will be Linda will return on July 2nd after her visit with the doctor to let case manager know what was done about her medication. So if you put this all together, doesn't that sound really concise and to the point and all the information that you really needed, right? Here's another example is you can do it where it says January 13th, 1916 or 2016, sorry, phone in parentheses so we know it was a phone call. Mark called today asking for a voucher for public transportation in order to go to Polyclinic Medical Center for kidney dialysis. Suggested he go by country transportation for more direct service. Mark seemed bright and pleased with the results of dialysis. He will call next week to confirm that county transportation has begun to pick him up. Okay, that's all it is. So this person is calling specifically for one thing, which is transportation, right? But we also want to check up on him and, say, hey, how is the dialysis going? And he has, positively said, or he was positive when he was talking about it. Okay, here's another example. May 3rd, 2013, office visit in parentheses, so we know that this is where the context of the situation happened. Jill came into the office this afternoon because she is out of medication and did not renew her prescription at the time she was given a voucher to do so. She stated she wanted to try to go without the medication at the time. Jill denied having any symptoms of her schizophrenia, but seemed agitated and impatient. She paced the office at one point and at one point appeared about to remove her blouse because it is so hot in parentheses, which means that, or in quotation marks, which means that she actually said that. An updated voucher was given to her in order for her to refill her prescription for Seroquel. She will refill her medication today and call case manager tomorrow to report how she is feeling. So again, we know exactly what happened, which is that she needed someone to help her fill out her prescription so she can get her medication. She's not feeling so great, but she wanted to try not using it for a while just to see what happens. And now she's saying that she's a little bit edgy or on edge. So then you are going to help her, and then you're going to ask her to call you back and let you know how she's doing now that she's got her medication. Here's another example, November 22nd, 2016, in parentheses, a site visit. Case manager visited Peter at his sheltered workshop on Tuesday, where Peter has been moved to a different job after folding the towels became too tedious for him. Workers at Margrave Linens felt that Peter could handle something more challenging. He will be folding uniforms now. Staff at Margrave seemed pleased with Peter's progress. Peter was working enthusiastically at his new responsibilities and seemed proud to have moved on to something more challenging. Case manager will see Peter in his group home in 2 weeks to see how things are going. So again, now you're actually going to visit them, your client, at a specific place, which is a sheltered workshop, and you can actually kind of give like a little progress note on how Peter is doing at this job. Okay. Labeling the contact. Collateral contact means a collateral contact is with someone other than the client, such as the client's mother, minister, or nurse, or teacher. You have the client's permission to make that contact because of the paperwork that was filled out earlier. If the client is a child, that you have the parent's permission to talk with this person as well. There's an office visit. That is where the client was seen in the office. The phone is when the client called you on the phone or you call the client. Site visit is when you went to the site where services are being given to your client and evaluated those services or discussed problems that have arisen. Group would be you saw the client in a group meeting or a group counseling session and were noting what took place during that contact. Home visit is when you go to the client's house and then you see the client at their home. Here's examples of how you can write it, which is, 4-13-15, which is the date, and then in parentheses, office visit parentheses, and then the rest of it would be your descriptor. Or 9-8-18, parentheses, phone, and then the rest of the information there. And then December 6th, 2015, parentheses, group, and then you can write the information after that. Documenting service monitoring. In addition to your direct contact with the client, document your efforts to monitor the delivery of service to your client. So you don't always talk with the client. You can also talk with their service providers or those provider agencies to just check up on them as well. Here's an example, 2-13-15, parentheses, site visit. Met with Rob and social worker Ginger Diamond at Riverview Center to monitor Rob's progress towards job readiness. He seems eager to begin job search and somewhat annoyed at the length of time the job readiness classes are taking. It was agreed that he will begin his job search with support next week while completing the remaining segments of the training. Rob will notify case manager in 2 weeks regarding outcome of job search. So that's one example. Here's another one. 2-23-15, which is February 23rd, 2015, collateral contact. So that's James' teacher, Mrs. Pike, called today to say that James is doing much better in school. She reported that he seems better able to focus on classroom assignments. Further, she has had 2 meetings with James' parent, and they have begun to inquire about homework and enforce the need to complete it each night. Overall, Mrs. Pike is feeling better about James finishing 5th grade this year with his other classmates. She states she will call again if there are signs of problems. Here are some documentation best practices. Number 1 is you want to avoid hostility. So for example, Abdul and case manager agreed he will come in to fill out his prescription on Monday, August 15, 2015, if he can manage to get out of bed. So that's kind of passive aggressive in the way that you're saying it is like, if he can get out of bed. So instead you want to avoid that because that's just going to make Abdul feel not very believed in, supported, and stuff like that. You want to document your interactions with the client in a way that is positive and also when you communicate with that person also in that positive manner as well. Document your interactions with the client. Your interactions with the client may be the most important thing that has occurred in that person's life at that moment. Verbal exchange or some other form of interaction is really important. Document what happened and what you observed, and use direct quotes from the client or collateral contact to really show, like, what this person is really saying, so that you don't need to make up your own assumptions. They are actually saying those things out loud. Document significant aspects of the client when it comes to appearance, their dress, facial expressions, mannerisms, responses to others or to activities, participation concerning interactions with you or participation in the services to the client was referred. Attitudes concerning interactions with you or participation in the services to which the client was referred, and cognitive problems. So basically what that means is whatever you notice that it's out of the ordinary, you might want to put that into your comments so that you remember those things. And you're kind of like monitoring these things as well. So here's example. Mrs. Peters seemed unable to understand exactly when we would be meeting again or what services would be provided in the meantime. She appeared confused and was somewhat unresponsive to her daughter and son-in-law, who tried to clarify these for her. So right there, you can see that you notice that the family interaction was very interesting because they were also trying to help her remember things, but she just didn't understand stuff, right? So all those things are succinctly put into this example. So again, remember to be clear and precise. So this is not a precise way is to say, Alice was friendly today, because that's also a little subjective. We really don't know what that means. So let's do a more clear and more precise version, or what's considered the good version. Alice initiated the conversation, joking about her Christmas shopping. See how much more clear that was when it comes to what a friendly conversation is like. Here's another one. A bad one would be, Bill was upset today. We don't know why. So let's find out what a good or better version of that would be, which is Bill was concerned about the possibility that he could lose his job. So now we can sort of tell that, or now we can actually tell that Bill was upset today for a very specific reason. He might lose his job, and that makes sense. Bad would be Marcella got along well in the program today. Okay, well, we don't really know. That doesn't really mean a lot, right? So instead, a good way to say is Marcella effect was improved today, and she participated in preparing lunch for the group and in both group sessions. See how much more descriptive that is? And that's just one sentence. It's a little bit longer, but not necessarily that much more work for you, but it really makes everything a lot more clearer for a person who's reviewing your notes and stuff like that. Use quotations. What the person has said to you may be extremely important. Place only the person's exact words in quotation marks. So when they say something like, this has made me really, really upset. So you want to put that in quotations to show how upset this person was by their actual words that they used. Avoid contradictions. Contradiction means basically you are saying the opposite of what you just said. Okay? So your progress note must not contradict the other previous notes without explanation. If the plan has changed, that must be documented. You must let us know that the plan has changed. Regresses or improves considerable. This should be documented as well. So if it does go opposite of what it was, you need to explain why. So let's say something like, Karen has now started only drinking, or let's say Karen has now started drinking 2 drinks a week instead of 10. Right? But then suddenly, let's say one day she decides she's going to drink 8 drinks. So then you're going to say she reported drinking 8 drinks this week instead of the 2 that she was going on prior to this. And we talked a little bit about the reasons why. Maybe it was a stressful week or she lost her job, and that's the reason why she has now regressed. Okay, so we understand. You can't just say Karen went from 2 drinks to 8 drinks this week, and then that's it. We don't know what that means, and we need to know what it is, and it needs to be documented so people understand. Okay. Read accurately described disabilities on page 401. If you need additional stuff, I recommend you do go onto it and then look at it. All right, government requirements. Use black ink. Never use a pencil or correction fluid. So you don't want to use whiteout when you do this. If there's a mistake, you can just cross it out. So we know that there was a mistake there and we know exactly what the mistake was. And then we can understand what happened after that. All notes must be legible, which means that you must be able to read it. Your coworkers need to be able to read it. It cannot be chicken scratch. The person must be identified by name on each page. For children, their birthday is also mentioned. And the reason why is if a page out of a whole set falls out on the ground or something like that, we know who it belongs to, and then we can put it right back into it as well. Okay. When recording, place the actual date of the contact note in the margin. And then sign every note, do not initial it. And after your signature, add the date the note was written. If the person is receiving ongoing service, every note must end with the next scheduled service date. So example would be, John will return on March 5th, 2017 for an appointment at which time we will discuss what he has done about housing. To correct a mistake in a note, you can just draw a line through the error, write the word error above the line, write the correction next to the word error, and then sign or initial on that line, and then date your signature and or initials. If any blank lines are left on the page once you have completed your notes, draw a diagonal line through the blank spaces. So kind of like, you know, if there's a blank paragraph of just lines, just cross through it so we know that you were aware of it and you didn't just forget. Because sometimes we'll go, did this person forget to fill this part out? Or, you know, did they just not need it? We need to know one or the other. So you're going to need to cross it out, and then we don't have to worry about asking you like, hey, there was a blank section here. Was there a reason why you left it? We just know exactly immediately that that part was not something that you needed to fill out. Do not be judgmental. Look at figure 23.3, how to avoid sounding judgmental on page 403 in the book. I recommend that you look at the book to receive the information about this. Distinguish between facts and impressions. Facts are things that you can validate by visually looking at it, right? Or whatever it is. It's the truth. You can't really argue against it. Like, let's say you are 5'6". You can't really argue and say, no, really, you're 6 feet tall, right? You're usually 5'6". You can measure it, and then we know that that's the truth. Impressions are kind of like your perception of what's going on, your perspective, your opinion, okay, your viewpoint. So here are ways where we can talk about it. You can say something like Bart seemed, Agnes appeared, or staff felt, and then you can fill out the rest of it. Here are some examples of bad and good. The bad one would be Mary acted pleasant, but was putting on a front. Okay, well, why? What was going on that she was putting on a front for what if she's happy? So here's a more clear version of that, which would be the one that we would prefer you to write, would be Mary was pleasant, but case manager felt she was very angry over losing her job. Okay. A bad example would be Manuel wasn't telling the truth when he said he was comfortable with the new group. Instead, you want to say Manuel said he was happy in the group, but he appeared uncomfortable in the first session. Okay. The next one is provide evidence of agreement. There should be evidence in the written record that you and the program to which the individual was referred agreed on the plan for the person. So what that is saying is, again, place facts where you are going to give an impression and why, okay? In the two bad ones, we saw a person's opinions, right? This is what they said. But you can say, I noticed that there are also these other things that were also in the situation that was not necessarily said out loud, but I got that impression. Making changes to the plan. Client gets sick, so you need to change plans. Providers is closed for snow because it's a snow day or COVID-19. Clients has a death in the family. Plan is too difficult for them to process or continue. Plan is not addressing the real issues behind it. Other more pressing problems arise in the person's life, such as note that the lack of progress in the notes, state why there is a lack of progress, note the revisions of the plan, and then revise the actual service. So those are things that you need to do if you notice that there are changes in the plan because of any of the reasons that we just talked about, or some other ones as well.